he sent me a picture of 4 trophies, one of them including first place ribs at the Royal. And he goes, "Here's my feedback." And I'm like, okay. And the way I work, most people know I was a master black belt at Caterpillar. So I'm about process. And you don't make a change without, how do you assure that's the only variable you change, things like that. And so it's going to take me till next year before I can incorporate it because I'm running with this recipe.
Mango ham barbecue, mango ham barbecue, mango ham barbecue, mango ham barbecue, your barbecue on, get your barbecue.
Ever notice how the sound of sizzling meat and the smell of smoke can silence the noise of the world? Now that's barbecue therapy. If the fire moves you, like, subscribe, share, and help spread the message because growth, like good barbecue, takes time and patience. Welcome to your therapy session. Welcome to the BBQ Therapy Podcast. My name is Tavis Bryant, and today we have a guest, the founder of Smokin Ghost Barbecue, Paul Buob, a brand that started from a concession stand fundraiser and has grown into a respected name in competition circuits, a line of award-winning rubs and sauces, and a company that gives back to the community with every bottle sold. We're going to talk about how Smokin Ghost began, the grind of building a barbecue brand, the highs and lows of competition, and of course, dig deep into his products that pitmasters and backyard cooks alike are raving about. Paul, welcome to the show. I got one rule: make yourself at home. I have 0 sponsors, so speak freely.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate you coming on. All right, let's take it back. You said you were, from your profile, you were born in Peoria, Illinois. How was that growing up, and what was the barbecue scene? Is that big city or no?
Yeah, Peoria, Illinois was about 100,000. The city, maybe about 300 in the metropolitan area. Home of Caterpillar, corporate headquarters of Caterpillar over the years before they moved to Chicago, then to Texas. But yeah, the barbecue scene wasn't great. You go up to Chicago to get really good barbecue. Big John's barbecue was the place to go downtown Peoria, and it was it. There are other people did barbecue, but if you came in and out of Peoria, it was Big John's, and you went to go get his ribs. And too young at the time to understand why it went away. Other than I was disappointed. And then, I don't know, probably about a decade ago, his sibling or descendants started it up again, and it didn't launch as well. Some of those things in the genre that goes with the original memory just can't be reproduced and modernized. And yeah, so in Peoria now we got a bunch of barbecue restaurants. We got a couple really good ones and some okay ones. We got a couple chains, but there's some really decent ones doing craft barbecue in the area.
Okay. And did your family barbecue growing up, or you didn't, only ate out, or when you
Yeah,
barbecue?
so my dad was a chef. When he was in the Army, he was cooking. I don't know that they would call him a chef. He would have probably thrown something at me if I called him a chef, but I cooked stuff on the grill, I cooked stuff, etc. But yeah, he was when there was a centerpiece of a meal at our house, 90% of the time that was my dad. All the other stuff my mom would do, she was big into the fried chicken and dumplings. The big thing was on your birthday, you get to pick what you want.
All right.
And for me, it was my mom's chicken and dumplings. My dad loved steak and burgers and tried to get me to love steak. And then I was a burger guy. Just butter bacon, throw some cheese on it. Just eat it like that. No ketchup, no pickle, no mustard. Just burger, cheese, and bacon. And probably about over 6 years, he really got me to steak. And I'm like, why would you do that? That's going to cost you money. But anyway, yeah, no, my dad was really the cook, and he would let you know if you're doing things wrong. He didn't hold back. Why are you flipping that burger 4 times? You flip it once, you're going to ruin it. But yeah, no, my dad was probably the influence in cooking in the family and barbecue.
So did he teach you and you kept practicing, or did you do it when you got out the house, or how did you do it?
Yeah, and I would say there was probably I was into sports in high school. Probably sports led the way and everything else was second. I didn't really have any steady girlfriends because that would interfere with sports and everything. And as I got towards the middle of college, I started looking at other things because I realized my sport career was going to end and started playing around with things and started getting into Italian food. And there was just nowhere to go. It was well before a lot of the podcasts and the internet. So I'd go hang out at restaurants towards the end of closing and just start asking questions. That was one of the things I really enjoyed. And now, mind you, in Peoria, it's not a giant Italian restaurant area. There's a couple of decent ones, but yeah, I'd say my locality kind of limited my ability to learn more.
Okay. Okay. And I guess let's take it forward a little bit. So I guess when you got married and you moved to a different area, and you said, I guess 25 years ago that's when the whole concession stand thing started where they bartered. How did that barter come about? Because it's that weird
Well,
blackmail.
yeah, I lived in Peoria, went to school in Decatur, Illinois, then went down to Houston, Texas, thinking I wasn't going to finish college. Did some installing alarms in the attics. That was in the summer. That wasn't going to happen. Came back and went back to college, got my degree, then went to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, worked for Rockwell, where I met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
We moved back to Peoria when Caterpillar was hiring in the early to mid late 80s. And then we got broken into several times. And so my wife's going, we got to move somewhere safer because she was expecting. So I gave her the little catalog back then. You had to go through a book to look at homes and all that. On the place, it was a ranch. It was very affordable for us. It had about 2 acres. And we kept driving trying to find it because it was in Chillicothe, Illinois. And I know Chillicothe because it's on the way to Chicago. That's all I knew about it. And to get gas there and get candy at the gas station. So I worked in Mossville, Illinois. So it's in my mind trying to design how many miles I wanted to come. But anyway, we found a place. I said, you know what? Let's just turn around here. Let's give up on this one. Turn around here and we'll head back. Where we turned around was the place we bought. And then our kids came up in that school district. And I became the baseball commissioner, the boys commissioner of baseball. Did that for probably about 10 years.
Wow.
And I knew it was time to get out, when it was the second year after my kids were all gone to baseball. And everybody's like, why are you still doing this? I like it. And we had a really prodigy, Zach McAllister, who ended up playing for the Cleveland Indians, drafted by the Yankees, played for the Cleveland Indians, played in the World Series. I knew once he got through, it was over for me. There's no higher note than a kid ends up like that. He did well, so my kids started getting into the high school. My oldest got in high school, eventually got into soccer, and the uniforms they had were just horrible. They looked like Speedos in the swimming room. Embarrassing. And so I went to a booster meeting and complained about the shorts for the guys. And kind of the old guard athletic director, and his hierarchy is boys football, all the other boys sports, then boys soccer, and then girls sports, and then the last thing on the end of the girls sports is girls soccer. We got to know all the soccer parents, and they had to translate the game for me, a football guy, but we got into it. We were doing stuff and went to the meeting and asked, hey, can we get shorts that fit our boys, or I'll buy them if you want me to. And a little bit of a clash between the old culture and let's just do the right thing. So the president at the time, Kim Robertson, came in and said, Paul, just back off. We'll get your shorts. But you need to do me a favor. Could you help us in the concession stand? And I said, you get the shorts? Yeah, I'll be there. And as that kind of barter came along, I said, oh, by the way, can we get the girls' sweats, the girls' soccer team sweats? Because in Illinois, you're playing outdoors in March, which is like 28 to 40 degrees and sleet, snow, rain, whatever. And I go, the boys' basketball has 2 pairs of sweats and they play indoors. How about the girls' soccer? And he goes, get in the concession stand, we'll work it out. So we got in there, and next thing, because I'm trying to organize things, trying to figure out, everybody tell me what we do, how we do it. And there's a lot of, Joe does that, so-and-so does that. So I'm at, well, how much margin we make on these things? No, I don't know. You don't know how much. Everybody calls me that corporate asshole kind of thing. All I'm doing is just looking at it, trying to figure out what's going on. They had ribeyes, which were delicious. And oh my God, that was meat prices go up, come back down, went up. This is one of those big up years. And I figured out we're asking for $6 for that sandwich, and we're making 50 cents. And I'm like, guys, that ain't right. We're not here to employ our suppliers to make money. We're here to make money. And I eventually got rid of that sandwich. And of course, all the coaches hated me. That was a great sandwich. We're not making money. We went back to the pork chops. And a buddy of mine that does a lot for St. Jude has a meat house, Dave Allman, Echo Valley Meats. And he says, Paul, you can buy them from me and I'll double tenderize them. I'll just meet you at my house, bring it from the shop. You just drive up, save yourself a half hour. So we did that for a couple of years. And then one night I pulled in and my CEO of Caterpillar pulled in and we had a little chat. And he goes, you ought to buy a bigger smoker. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. I have to run by that wife and all that stuff. And then Dave goes, oh, by the way, here's where you can get yourself a tenderizer. You don't need to come here. So move on your own, do your own thing. And that took off a little bit. So we started doing all our own tenderizing. And the salts, the rubs we're using were the Lowry-ish stuff and very salty. And so I'm like, let's come up with something a little more purpose, a little more savory, balanced. I played around with that for a couple of years. And just before I went and took it to a co-packer, we did a barbecue competition. Somebody was like, hey, you're barbecue, because we ended up doing pulled pork. Somebody says there's better margin on pulled pork than pork chop. Thought, why not try that? So we did. And we didn't do well at all. I mean, out of 45 teams, we were like 40th. And our pork was like 29th. That was the highlight, right? Me being the competitor, the hook was set, not because I got a call, but because I can do better. My teammates, they enjoyed the environment, and there was a craft beer show there and everything. So pretty quickly, I realized you can either drink a lot or you can score well. You can't do both. And so over time, I really went and bought a trailer, bought the Jambo that my CEO was talking about. I actually got to cook with Tuffy Stone and Jamie Gear down in Houston, and that was pretty awesome. And the hook was set there. And then I started going out with this rub. I worked with Excalibur and the food scientists, and I knew nothing about bringing anything to market. And oh, by the way, I'd never had a barbecue call, right? Not a top 5, not a top 10 in anything. And yet I have a barbecue rub, right? I can tell you how not to do that, right? If you listen to the podcast, How to Do Barbecue Right, I can tell you how to do barbecue wrong, right? Coming out of the gate, it just wasn't right. Things weren't there. So I just started giving my rub away to people near me at a barbecue contest. Hey, try this. Let me know what you think, etc. Ran into a buyer at Kroger that was next to me in Indianapolis. And 2 months later, I'm in Florida and I get a call. Hey, we'd like to bring this in. I'm like, are you serious? Really? So then I get on the phone and I call a couple of buddies in the industry. What do I do? Tell me what I'm about to learn. And they gave me the lowdown on distribution. Heath Hall was one that kind of sat down and ran through, here's the numbers, here's this. And he said, go ask your co-packer for a discount because you got this coming. Work with everybody. And then I realized it's a lot like what I did at Caterpillar with suppliers. I'm like, I actually know this. I just don't know the category. So we got into that. Next thing, we're pushing the rub around. And then we started to get a little bit better. Took classes, went and took Razor Racks and Heavy Smoke, Travis Clark. Probably the one that I leaned on the most was Steve Hayden with 1-2 Barbecue. But they get my texts, they get my calls at the contest. Hey, why this? Hey, why that? So, yeah, we eventually got better.
It was an interesting journey. When you started on, as far as pork chops, it seemed like I would have loved to come to y'all fundraising because at the most you get nachos or a hot dog or something like that, and y'all selling pork chops. So I'm like, how much were y'all selling the pork chops for?
My frustration was you go to a football game, you get a pork chop on a bun, it's like a hockey puck, right? It doesn't have to be that way. It is not hard. It really is not, right? We were selling them at the time, I think pork chops for $5, and I think our cost was like 79 cents. It wasn't too long before we had money, we're doing things. All of a sudden, people forgot about the ribeyes and that, and that's where they came back and said, hey, we should do pulled pork. It's got a better margin. And I looked around and go, who knows how to do pulled pork? Nobody raised their hand. So I'm like, equally as good or equally as bad. That's where the pulled pork started well before the competitions. And yeah, I was out there just Googling and playing around. Early on, well before Mr. Jordan was around, I had a master-built cabinet that had 3 legs that worked and a block of wood that I put on the other one. But I have it up in the rafters up here as a showpiece, the original janky leg. But we started all that. We eventually got the pulled pork in. And we learned how to quench it, rethermalize, all those procedures. The folks at the National Barbecue Association, I went there one year trying to learn more. And I was sitting next to Dave Anderson and Dave Raymond, and they weren't wearing like famous Dave and Sweet Baby Ray's. They're dressed up, and they were hitting me up with questions. Why are you here? What are you doing? And you need to come out with a rub. And I'm like, oh, I'm not that guy. Oh, make some sauces. Oh, that's not me. And there's enough rubs and sauces in the market. I don't need to add anything. If I need anything, it's out there. And they're telling me all this stuff. And then Stuart Meyer comes over and he goes, what do you think? I go, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, this conference I went to. He goes, what did you think of Sweet Baby Ray? I go, oh, is he here? And he goes, oh, you were talking to him for 45 minutes. That was Sweet Baby Ray? I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know. And he goes, what about Dave Raymond? I go, is he here too? He goes, Paul, he was on the other side of you. I was like, I didn't know. And they weren't wearing their badges or everything. So I didn't know. And yeah, I mean, I'd met the Barbecue Brass, Mo Cason, Kel Phelps, Myron Mixon, all those guys. And it was just relaxed right there, telling you things and giving you tricks and stuff like that. So I went like this. And then the hook was set long before I got a call.
What year did you go to the NBBQA conference?
I think it was there in 2017, 2018, and 2019. And then we didn't have it in 2020.
Okay. And can you tell a little bit about the NBBQA conference? I'm trying to go. I'm gonna try to go this year and see what it's about. But I'm in Georgia. I've met Kel this year, and real nice gentleman and stuff like that. And I'm gonna try to go to the conference this year to see what it's about and what I can learn, because I know it's in Tennessee this year.
Yeah, and I haven't gone because of conflicts the last couple of years. And one of the conflicts is my good friend Jason Cole and Eric and those guys have the Smoke on the Shores barbecue contest in Lebanon, Tennessee. And that's also home where KCBS houses the World Invitational. So unless I'm dead or my daughter's having a baby or my sister or something's having a baby, then I'm going to be there. And the NBBQA was always on top of that. This year, it's not. Yeah, I believe it'll be a long couple of weeks in Tennessee. But yeah, the National Barbecue Association, I know it's changed over the years, but they do much like the American Royal. They host rubs and sauces, the best of. And that's the first year that I had the product on a label, I submitted it, and it finished 6th. And I was like, that was when I thought, wow, I might have something here. And I used to call it a steak and beef rub. And everybody was telling me, Paul, it's really good on this, good on that. And the next year I submitted it into the seafood category because my buddy goes, have you tried it on salmon? I'm like, man, it's a steak and brisket rub. And it won the seafood category. So I had 10,000 labels that I basically had to set aside, and we switched it to all-purpose rub. Because everybody's telling me about, hey, if you have a seafood rub, they'll grab it when they're cooking seafood. If you have a beef rub, they'll grab it when they're cooking beef. The general consumer. Now, barbecue guys, I got beef in my chicken for sure. But yeah, so I learned a lot right off the bat. Operational definition of a sunk cost, right, is you got to pivot this and call it all purpose. And we did. So I got a lot of things I can tell people coming out with a product for the first time. And I have. I shared it with Brad Cox and those guys coming out with theirs. And Chris Schaefer, when he came out with his stuff, of course, he was a world champ before he came out with the products. I was the opposite. I was swimming uphill. But yeah, the NBBQA, they had special interest groups for retail. They had special interest groups for restaurants. They had a little bit of everything, marketing, social media. And you've had the Meat Church, Matt Pittman, those guys are there. The heavies in the industry are there. And it's much like your barbecue family. There are no secrets. In fact, that's where I met the Shed, right? Mama Shed and Papa Shed and Brad and Brooke. And I got to see them this weekend at World Food. And their energy levels are still off the chart. Brad's bouncing off the walls at 6 in the morning and at 11 at night. I don't have that energy anymore that he does. But yeah, all those guys are out there helping you. And they have the steak cook-off. So they have a Friday night Rhinestone Cowboy cook-off for steak. And then they have another one on Saturday. And all the heavies are there in the steak world. So it's really a good time. And if you want to figure out what's going on and get up to date, especially like back then I was a newbie. So I'm meeting people that I've seen on TV and can't believe this. And you can end up picking up the phone and giving them a call. Yeah. So it's it's a really good conference. And I know a couple years ago it pivoted where Kel took over. Just like anything, the industry got beat down during COVID, and they had to pivot one way or the other. And Kel was the guy, and he is the guy, and his wife. Don't get me wrong, she does a ton. So it ain't just the Kel show. But
It's
yeah,
definitely true.
it's a great conference if you can get there. It's not like 100% competitive barbecue. It's a little bit of everything.
I'm trying to get there this year. It's in, I think they're having it in March, and it's the 35th, actually the 35th anniversary. I think they celebrating the next year, but I definitely look forward to it. But I definitely wanted to know how they do it, and do they split off into groups and talk about specific areas and stuff like that? Because what I'm doing, I'm trying to get better, and in order to get better, you got to learn how to get instructions from other people that's successful doing it, and then I'm gonna enter my show into the little, I guess,
Yeah.
the competition to see how it pans out and go from there. But he's doing a lot of good things with the magazine and all the live fires at the Smoke Slam, and he's gonna have one in American Royal. So that's why I like definitely support him, because he gives back to the community. So I say keep the magazine alive, because I'm an old school. I like reading the magazine. All the digital stuff, they can have all that, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, Kel's on the good dude train for sure.
exactly. All right, let's talk some more about your products. So you got the all-purpose, and then you got the next level. What's the difference between next level and the all-purpose?
About $5. Yeah, no, seriously. So the original product was one I collaborated. Yeah, that one I collaborated with Excalibur here in it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes from my house in Pekin, Illinois, and they don't have the larger bottle sizes.
Mhm,
And I really wanted to get in what I call the industry standard, the 12 to plus ounce bottle.
mhm.
And I didn't want to own the inventory of bottles. I've spent too much money on other things already. I just came back from World Foods with another smoker, and I had to tell my wife this morning. So waited for her to be in a good mood. But so the original though was really the one that I was targeting for beef and steak. And again, we use it on the pork chops, and eventually became the all-purpose rub. But it was a collaboration designed with Excalibur, and I
Mhm,
really learned the basics of how to do work with food scientists. I'm trying to, and I actually listened to a video on YouTube, and it says talking with food scientists. You point to your tongue, and I'm like, I'm either going to go over there and they're going to laugh at me, or it's going to work. We got I don't know three people in the room, and all of them probably about one third my age. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm over my head. And we got it close, and they put three samples out there, and I said, the last one is real close, it's just missing right there on the tongue, just missing a little bit. Sample I give you had that, yours doesn't. And it was the celery salt. And I'm
mhm,
like, if that's what I said, okay. I don't have that. I can discern a difference. I just can't communicate it. And so they came back with the final sample. And the one thing I didn't realize working with a co-packer is when you give them something, I'm thinking, man, if you can only get like 90% of close to that, I'll be good. What I wasn't expecting, it would be like 130% better than what I gave them.
Oh wow.
And their ingredients are fresh. They're coming in.
Mm.
We're buying stuff in bulk off the shelf. We don't know how long it's been. So the whole supply chain for us is a question mark where they're managing that all the time. But yeah, that was the first product, the all-purpose, and that was really we still use day one. I use it on pork, on brisket, still on pork. I dabbled with it on chicken. I like it as a base, but I use a whole bunch of other stuff on chicken than that. I know
Mhm,
there are people that use it on chicken. A couple of them are beating me usually with it, figures. But then came the all purpose next level. I ended up working with McCarthy on this one. They had the bigger bottles, and I had some friends that went there and had positive experiences. And we got into the development of it and working with my buddies at the superstore and trying to speed the process along from their experience and everything. How do I say it? A lot of times, what you're trying to do is not what you end up with, and
mhm.
that's the case of this one. I was trying to really get similar in a bigger bottle, and it came out different. And I was getting a little frustrated. And it was probably the first one took 3 months to develop the original OG,
Mhm.
and the next level was probably about a year. And I was getting frustrated. Color wasn't the same. taste was different, right? And so I started handing out some bottles to friends of mine that I trust. And I'd say, hey, try it, let me know, try it, let me know. Paul Keltner was one of them. Jason Cole was one of them. And I'm telling them, hey, do not use it in competition. I don't want to be accountable for anything goes wrong. I'm telling you, try it in your practice or somewhere else. Don't make me the reason you don't do well. And I think it was Jason. I said, just give me some feedback afterwards because I wasn't getting payments or anything. So I just try it. He sent me a picture of 4 trophies, one of them including first place ribs at the Royal. And he goes, here's my feedback. And I'm like, okay. And the way I work, most people know I was a master black belt at Caterpillar. So I'm about process. And you don't make a change without, how do you assure that's the only variable you change, things like that. And so it's going to take me till next year before I can incorporate it because I'm running with this recipe. And it was up at Death's Door in Wisconsin. The cheese curd cartel had poked, because I didn't bring my steak cooker. And Death's Door used to be a double barbecue contest and then an SCA contest. And a lot of the SA cooks would get together and compete in the barbecue and do damn well. And they were poking at me because I wasn't cooking steak. And there are some of my sponsored teams. I said, next year, if I'm here, I'll cook steak. And I packed the PK, but I packed it in a secret spot. And I was hoping they wouldn't remember because I hadn't cooked this competitive steak in 2 years. I was never what I would call a leader in steak. I was a field filler in steak. And I tried to run Tim and Sandy's recipe in the first practice cooks. I didn't like it. Conversely, the judges didn't like it. It was DAL in the first round. So in the second round, I said, you know what? I got this new rub. I want to get feedback from the judges on the new rub. At least I'll come away with something. So all I did on the last practice steak was use the new OG, the next level rub. And the practice went, I just need a little more sweetness on it. So on the spinella of the second steak, I put a little Cimarron Docks with it. And we ended up getting a golden ticket. And the cheese curd cartel was all over me. See, I told you, I'm still not a great steak cook, right? That day I got lucky. But the big difference is, I think, if you do like a caveat chart where the center is 0 and you have spicy up here is 10, sweet, and you do all the salty and all that, the original was probably like 5, 5, 5, 5, balanced. This is what, if you go out to a Barbecue Pro Shop and look at the Smoke Freaks flavor guide, it pretty much says that. But the next level actually moves that up to 6, 7, so it pushes it in a little more direction. I still use them both interchangeably. Like on vegetables, I tend to use the original because small food, small shaker is the way I look at it. But on pork and brisket, it's the next level, and ribs. Yeah, just a little more spicy. It has a little more in each direction. The color is a bit different coming out.
And you got the spooky sweet and the honey heat. Let's go over some of the awards that were won. 2021, you got the BBQA, you got the first place marketing. What was that in detail as far as the marketing material award that you got?
Yeah, so and that you asked about MBPQA, they have a lot of categories, which is great. You can put things out there to see where you fit, what adjustments. So they had a marketing category, they had a label category, so the product label. They had the marketing is material. I have a flyer that I send to all the stores when I'm soliciting, and it's got the product and it shows all the details of it, where it's used and all that, really trying to entice them to bring our product in. I just sent that in as the marketing material. And I work with a graphics designer for everything I do. I'll tell them what I want and they make it better, much like the co-packer. So that was what won that one that year. The OG won the seafood, I think in 2020, 2019, whatever. I'm no longer can remember anything. I just remember something happened. I can't tell you when. I can tell you the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. I remember that. But yeah, and then let's see, the sauce won 1 year. Yeah, we had 7 of those, I think, that won in various categories. And when it was in Kansas City, they had a people's choice where the people coming in were trying the rubs and sauces, and we won that. And I'm like, that's more important to me than maybe a bunch of judges in the back room. I wanted people on the street liking it.
Exactly.
So that was pretty exciting. But that was the national barbecue. So we're really the national awards. It wasn't until a couple years ago I submitted in the American Royal. And the first year, I think we were mid pack on the rub, nothing noteworthy. And I didn't submit the sauces. I forgot, really, to be honest with you. So the next year came and left, and I missed the deadline. So I'm like, okay, put it on the calendar. We're going to get in this year. And I sat there trying to figure out where to put this haunted heat, because it's really not a spicy sauce and it's not a sweet sauce. I'm like, what do I do? I'm going to put it in the specialty category. And it's a bit of a risk because there's so many things, so many diverse things in the specialty. But I thought it wasn't sweet and it wasn't heat. It's different. And then the sweet, I just left in the sweet. And I got a call in April from the American Royal. Paul, this American Royal, I thought it was about my registration for the American Royal, right? I forgot. I didn't know they're going to call you with the news. You won the sauce category. And I'm like, I did? Wow. Then I'm like, which one? She said the specialty, and you got a perfect score. I'm like, wow. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Of all the winners, then there's the best sauce on the planet. So of all the mustard category, all these categories, they take those and they have the best sauce on the planet. Now I'm thinking, if I had a perfect score, how can I get beat? You can't. You can't. Trust me. Comes to tiebreakers, I don't do really well. But hey, it won the category, and it was second best sauce on the planet. If you go look at the math, it didn't get the title best sauce on the planet, but just to be there, to win the category, to be there, just crazy. Country Bob, Nate Edmond in Centralia, Illinois. We did the demo things and all that, and I was never prepared. Again, I should be. When you send them something, it can come back better. We gave him the original recipes. We worked on it, came back, and I said, I want a little more over here. Go that way. He sent me the sample for haunted heat, and he goes, I apologize. It isn't right. We'll get it right with the next one. I tried it, and I'm like, called him back. I go, Nate, don't change a thing. Again, it's not exactly what I was looking for, but it's so different. It gives you heat on the back. It comes up with heat and it just dissipates. Mm-hmm. So you get the experience. It was just really different. And same with the sweet. It was more classical Southern, smoky sweet. And boom, there I am, a sauce company, right? And if I'd known how fast you sell sauce, I would have done that first. But again, I wasn't going to get into retail sales at all. So the rub was just a oops, and then the sauce was intentional.
So how did it go as far as when you get your product in a store? Do you just give them the I guess how many they ask for? Do they purchase it, or do you get paid after it sells in the store?
So there's a lot of different models out there. Early on, I was just going to the doors of the stores I knew, right? Mm-hmm. I grew up in Peoria, Alwyn, Pottstown, Rabers. The traditional meeting house has been here for decades, 50, 60 years. Immediately went to them. The first one I ever went to was one of my friends, Pastor Stephanie, and she had a picket fence of floral. Mm-hmm. And she actually called me first. She goes, are you going to put that rub here? And I'm like, sure. I didn't have that extroverted go knock on doors and get ready for a 70% rejection. I didn't have that. So I had to build that. But yeah, so a lot of the stores are just straight drop ship. And Dave Raymond said, Paul, you need to own your 3 hour window around you. Mm-hmm. Certainly the 1 hour, but you got to own that. Go work that. Go do demos, just hammer it. And so we did. And we got a good local following. And then I started, the Kroger thing just fell in my lap. And that actually turned out not as great because I learned what a distributor can do for you and what they can't do for you. The distributor we'd sell out at a store in a week and they weren't reordering. And I found myself getting calls from customers. I was shipping them a free bottle. I was copying the distributor and copying the buyers, and they just weren't checking the stores. And I'm like, you pay a percentage to that distributor. And so it was like after about a year of that, when people would call me, I'd say, where would you go if not Kroger to get your meat? I'd go to this store. So I'd call that store and say, hey, I'd send them a bottle. I'd send them a kit with everything in there. Mm-hmm. Try this, wait a week or two, and call them back. Have you had a chance to try it? And then, okay, can I have the feedback? Okay. And then I'd send them the price sheet. So a 3-step. And during like 19 and 2020, especially during COVID, I have a big old whiteboard with I had little cards that I would progress. Delivered sample, tried sample, call back, and the old project meant call back on, and then some maybe next year, which was probably a polite no, you're not coming here. And we just made the push to go coast to coast. And I got that extroverted, just get on the phone, say hi, and never call on a Monday, never call on a Friday. Tuesday is probably the best day, Tuesday or Wednesday, because stores are going crazy on the weekends and all that. And say, hey, we've won some awards. We're a small shop. We got craft barbecue sauces and rubs, and we'd like to have a shot. I'll send you some samples. And that's the mode. It wasn't overly scripted, but it was pretty consistent. And I probably called, I don't know, 2,000 stores over that period of time. And we ended up about maybe 8 or 9% that took us. And unfortunately, post COVID, we lost a lot of those stores too. And the other key thing I learned, it's hard to ship directly to the coasts, right? The prices, when you get shipping in that, become a problem, right? So you either have to make up for it in margin or in volume. And there's no magic to that. You just do the math. But I got okay at it. And lean on your buddies. Chris at Code 3, give him a call quite often. Hey, I got this, I got that. And he's, Paul, if you don't want to do that, I'll do it for you. And I'm like, pulling my ear, go, maybe I will hand that over to you. I'm getting older. I'm collecting Social Security now, so maybe I ought to have somebody do my pick, pack, and ship for me instead of me.
Crazy thing. That's where I got this from when I went to Chris Schaefer class. It was in the Collinsville barbecue supply.
Exactly. I call it Code 3, but it's Collinsville barbecue supply. Yeah, Chris is a great guy. And Mike, they've been good friends. I met them at NBBQA. Yeah. And didn't know Collinsville or Code 3 at the time. Hung out with them, and we cooked under the tent together, steaks and all that. Yeah, he's one of those confidants on steaks, barbecue, retail, everything like that. Yeah, that's, again, all because of the context I met through MBBQA. But yeah, so that's the channel from the craft product out. And the best thing I can say is when you're getting into it, and if you have questions, call somebody that you know knows it and that you feel comfortable getting good and bad feedback. And the one thing I'll tell you, and this is part of what I don't always believe your closest friends and your relatives, they're not gonna hurt your feelings. So the best thing is to do is exactly what I did it out of spite, because they were telling me, oh, it's great on salmon, it's great on corn. I go, guys, it's a steak rub. So I submitted in that seafood category. I swear to you, I submitted in the seafood category intentionally because it wouldn't do well, and it won it. And that's when the light bulb went off, and it was like, it really did win. They are right. And instead of treating this as hobby kind of mentality, I had to scrap my mental state and start over. And that was just, it was a watershed moment. And that's when I got more serious about the business of the retail products.
You're giving good information today. Giving the background, because people think it's easy where you just throw something together and get it bottled and get it in the store like it's nothing, but it's a whole process behind all that. And by you telling it, I didn't know it was that hard, but it seemed like it's a lot that goes into getting a product in the store.
Yeah, and everything's going to change. Prices are going to go up. Percentages are going to go up. If you get into some of those contracts with the majors, you get into the BOGOs where you got to provide them, buy one, get one. If your product doesn't sell many months, et cetera, they want you to buy it back. It gets deep, right? So you got to decide, what channel do I want to be in? How big do I want to grow, right? And right now I've got a couple of the larger stores that I'm navigating that, because I know it could be more of my time than I want to give. And so that's where I would go look at a Collinsville barbecue, say, hey, Chris, this would be the one I want to hand over to you. And the beginning of me getting my hands off the day-to-day stuff, right? But I've been flirting with that for 3 years, right? I'm getting better myself, which kind of curbs it, so the growth I can still handle. But you get into some of the mid-major stores, you need somebody that does it full-time, like those guys. And there's more of them out there. I know there's a bunch in Kansas City and et cetera. So it's not just them, but that's who I would go to first because I know them.
Let's switch over to the KCBS World Invitational, where you got the perfect score in brisket, but also you tied for first, but came in second. How was that feeling when you got the results, as far as, I guess, You came in second, even though you had tied for the first score, tied for first.
Yeah. So we didn't get a chicken call, and we do this, and it's very humorous. My buddy Scott, who cooks with me all the time, was there, and Tim Matthews. I asked him to come down and got him everything because I needed help because I was going to cook for the judges.
Hmm.
They did a CBJ class on Wednesday, I think it was. And so I knew, man, if I really want to cook the competition, I'm going to have to help cooking everything else. So he was there, tremendous help. Scott and I have cooked together a lot. We've won a few contests together. So he knows me, right? Tim knows me, but he's fiercely independent like me. So there was a lot of not clash, but what about this? How about this? What about that? Challenging some of the things I thought about. And that brisket call was one of those conversations, right?
Hmm.
I normally don't do that. Why not? And for anybody that knows me, to change something at a competition without practicing it. So Tim was the one that, why don't you add this and then we'll float it. I was like, I've never done that. I'm not a can cook. But yeah, so the whole contest went on. We thought chicken was best. We thought ribs was second. Pork was third best. And we thought brisket was the one we had to worry about. And of course, it was completely the opposite, right? Brisket was a perfect score. Pork was, I don't know, top five, I think. Ribs was top 10. And chicken was like 60th or something like that. And the night before, we did that same chicken, and we ended up with a winning score, but ended up third on tiebreakers. So on Friday night, I lose the tiebreaker for third for chicken. And then I did win the brisket tiebreaker. So I went 1 for 3 on tiebreakers. And I was happy in that audience to be even in the top 10 because I had not done well the year before. And I was a little frustrated. I thought it was good. And we all say that, right? Anyway, so this day, since I have switched to compound pork, my pork and ribs have been just elevated. And I've simplified things. And I'd like to believe I've kept that knowledge from Steve Hayden and progressed. But the brisket's been my kryptonite. It's either a grand slam or a fastball upside the head. There's no in between. And I think a lot of times I over finish it, which is what creates that. And so on that day, I was sitting back in the chair when they got to brisket, and I'm sitting there thinking, hey, I'm going to be in the top 20. That was my mindset, I swear to you. And I think it was Mulkey's who were overlooking. And then they called the first place brisket, and it was that 3-second delay. I go, did they call our name? Because I thought brisket was the fourth best protein we turned in. And then Charlie's up there, repeats it, or Eric or Charlie, I can't remember. Oh, it's Eric, repeats it. And then I look over at Mulkey's, and they're like, you didn't know, did you? I go, absolutely not. I didn't expect it. And you think if I have a decent brisket, maybe, when I get from 15 to 10, maybe. But once you get up to the top 5, it wasn't that good. You're like, you don't think you're going to beat these best cooks in the world. And I didn't over finish it. It was tender, and I didn't over finish it. And it landed on the right table, a little bit of table roulette there maybe. But so then I'm all excited and everything. And then I sit down and they do the soy award, U.S. soy, which was the chicken, ribs, and pork category. And I got a call in ribs and pork. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm in the hunt for this now. And I didn't get top 5 in the soy category, which I didn't think about. I thought, okay. And Damn Fine Beef and Swine did, right? And so we start calling off names. They start popping names in the top 10, and they call off Damn Fine Beef and Swine. And I'm like, uh-oh, he tanked it? And he came by afterwards. You give the ceremonial hug. He pulled me in tighter there, goes, no, my brisket was shit, Paul. And I'm like, okay, now I'm nervous because I thought he was the one. I can't beat him based on the scores I saw. And they start getting down and cranking them up. And I haven't heard Eric's name. I haven't heard Meet Me in St. Louis. And there was one other. And the one other was like 16th or whatever, which they didn't call. And yeah, I'm not present mentally. I'm tight as anything. And then they call me for second place. And I'm happy. High-fiving people. Takes a while to get to the stage on that. And I'm up there getting the picture with the guys. We got the big thing. We got the trophy and the big check. And Charlie Brinza, the rep, leans over and says, oh, by the way, it was a 3-way tie for first. and then walks on. Charlie and I have a great relationship. He former board member, etc. And I was there. You can see the smile with the check, and he tells me, I was like, "Hang on, I got to take another picture." The one I got was like, wow, it was that close. But it was meet me in St. Louis, and we cooked with them probably 70% of the time. When your best friends, Bill and Andrea of Triple H, Jordan now, Hen Country Outlaws, Jace, when you get down to the wire with some of your buddies, Paul and Lynn, you want to win, but you're not disappointed if they do. You're happy to be there. And that's what it was for those guys. Brian's great, crazy good cook. But yeah, I was tremendously happy even after that. And then actually, once I heard that, man, I felt so horrible for Eric, right? I'm like, I did feel bad I didn't win, but I felt worse for Eric to be third because earlier in the year he had a tie and didn't win again. So it's like his second or third tie that he didn't win.
Wow.
This is my first tie that I didn't win. C'est la vie. But yeah, no, that was an emotional day. And then we had to turn around and do it again the next day. And we had a decent cook, but I missed a couple of things. And I think we ended up 20 something, 27, 24, something like that.
I'd been sad as I don't know what. It's just that's a hurt to feel. I'd be like, don't even tell me the score.
Yeah. Oh, Charlie couldn't wait to tell me. My wife's always on me because I'll be honest with you. When it's a tie in the top five, I think I'm like 1 for 50, right? The only ties I win are like the tie for 26th that you could have been 31st and you end up 26th. Those are the ones I win. This weekend at World Food, we tied for 5th. We ended up 6th. So top five get an automatic invite back. We ended up tied. And I told Sean, that's my fault. I don't know what it is, but it's my fault. I don't win ties. But I did win the brisket tie over Sailor Nick, and I let him know
that. So you were a board member of KCBS. What made you join the board or go for the board?
Like everyone, I have thoughts of what the board should do, and I was like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And Charlie Brinza, being one of the closer ones to me, and Gene Titus were the ones I leaned on because I knew them. I see them on weekends. Why about this? Why did we do this? How about this? And eventually I got put on a committee, the J Cup committee with Charles Cridlin. And he goes, rather than complain, Dave Drutzler steered me in. He's a rep. He goes, rather than complain, why don't you join the committee and help us do things? Well, that's reasonable. So we were working on the J Cup. And I'd recently come off a contest where I got 3 6s in brisket and I had burnt ends, 2 fatty, 666, 666. And I had at the time President Stan Dubinsky try those burnt ends. And he's like, man, you nailed these. I mean, the tenderness is amazing. I'll put them in the box. I had a bad contest. So it's not like I'm worried about, oh, they hurt me. Where a lot of times, if they aren't perfect, I won't put them in the box. So I put them in the box and I got 3 6s. Three judges gave me straight 6s. And there's no way. That was my motivation complaint back to some of the board members. And they put me on a committee, and I ended up doing the J Cup, the brisket module. And that's why it is what it is today. We do talk about, because we never tell anybody, any judge, how to judge a burn end. And that was a problem. And my fear is if we don't teach them how to judge it, they're just going to disappear from boxes. And they are. More and more, you go to a contest, probably I'm going to bet 30% or less have burn ends. And it used to be almost 50 to 80% had burn ends. So that was my motivation to do that. And then 23, there were some really bad tables and variation on tables. And I was like, can't we do something with this? Why am I on a table with 3 entries? That shouldn't happen. It should be 6 or 5. So I started doing that. And then we had the little snafu at the Royal, and I have an IT background, so I felt maybe that's the sign I should run. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring to get on the board, and that was 24. I ended up getting on the board.
I need to do something because my biggest complaint with them is I like history. I like to know if I want to know John Elway's rookie stats, or if I want to know a baseball player's rookie stats, I can go and look. But if I want to know when Donnie Teal started or Darren Worth's first year, or I have no way of looking that up, and we have to take people's word for it on how great they are because you can't really research it. And I was telling Rod Gray, that's one of my things that I want to see is I want to see people's stats. I want to see myself how great some of these people that don't get the props back then, how good they were, but we have no way of seeing it. And it's sad that some of the stuff is just
Yeah.
lost and we don't get to recognize them for their accomplishment before internet.
Yeah, and obviously barbecue data is great for the digital age and beyond. Like Lotta Bull, Mike Davis, you got Three Little Pigs, and even who else? Three Eyes. There's Pork County Choppers. There's a lot of teams that were on the fence of both sides.
Mhm.
Donnie as well.
Johnny
He's always
Trigg,
yeah, well,
Myron
yeah,
Mixon early years.
Johnny. Yeah, those guys were. I think we had TV back then when Johnny was cooking because I saw a TV show with Johnny on it. But yeah, no, we. So I will tell you that the board is scanning all those old documents. Charles Cridlin is working, pushing this. He rolls off the board this year, and
Mhm.
probably myself or Dave Qualls will continue to push for that. But they're getting them digitized so that we can do scanning to get that history. Because you're right, and some of those ones we only have one copy. So it's like, hey,
Wow.
we trust you to scan this, but even when you're done, please preserve it because we want to do that. But no, I give kudos to Charles and even Mr. Qualls on pushing for the digital copies and all that. And we're getting in the window of announcing the candidates coming up. So that'll be, what are we, late October, probably early November, worst case. You'll see that come out. Yeah. And then some of the things we did last year on the Friday night, we had the Rib World Championship and the Chicken World Championship. We'll start communicating more on that. We're hoping to have some sponsors to put down on the table with those. We're not going to wait for the sponsors to announce stuff. If you want a chicken or a rib title, whether that's in category like the four meat, or whether it's a rib burn or a chicken burn, those are going to be the people that are invited to come back on Friday night. And my thought is, man, if I'm coming down there to cook rib or chicken on Friday night, I'm going to cook the open on Saturday. Now you got a reason to come down, not just cook and leave, or you can come down, cook, and help a team with their turn-ins. So
Yeah.
everybody could use the next person in the trailer, especially a lot of times I cook alone. So yeah, I don't mind having a little help in the trailer.
Yeah. That and also crowd bringing audience in to view what's going on because a lot of competitions they sometimes it just be the cooks and then I went to the Pigs and Peaches this year and they had all the cooks like no joke like a half a mile away from the actual festival. People didn't get to really experience the competition because it was so far away from the festival and I was like this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and last year was the first year we did a public facing component.
Mm-hmm.
And was it a home run? Absolutely not. Probably more like a hit by pitch. A good start, right? It was a fair start. A, we need to make it wildly profitable. B, we need to have people. We have some plans going on this year with that. Hoping to announce some sponsors of that. If we're going to do it, it's going to be successful and we're going to have people there or we won't do it.
Mm.
We do need to have the public engaged, though, to your point, and we need them to be visible with the teams. And that's why People's Choice is always great. Having companies with smokers there and rubs so the public can come over and ask questions of people who have a lineage in this. That'd be great to have a Donnie Teal there talking about here's what I did or something like that. Those are the types of things, but we got to get the people there. So there's a little work to do.
I'm gonna ask you a fun question and then play a quick game with you and get you out of here. All right, if you had to create a dream team to cook a competition, is you and three other people, which and you can pick anybody dead or alive. Which people are you picking, and which meat are each of you cooking?
Wow. I should have known this. I've listened before. So I get to pick three people.
One for each meat.
There's four categories, though.
You and three other people.
If I'm picking a dream team, I'm not on it. Oh, wow. So it's going to sound Homer. Immediately, I think Darren. I think Jordan. I think Bill from Triple H and Albie. So I've got four right in my brain, but you just told me I got to do three. So probably go Jordan, Bill, and Albie.
Okay. And what meat
And if
each of them
those
cooking?
ain't there, I'd go Darren or Drew from Razorbacks. Up those two in, kind of thing.
All right. And who
And
cooking
I
which
put
meat?
Paul and Lynn in. I put Paul in. If one of those failed, I put Paul and Lynn in. Now, does that count as two if I said Paul and Lynn?
They're a team.
Okay. Maybe I should have gone for those that have two, so I get Sherry and Darren. So maybe I ought to rethink that. That would be my first thought.
All right. And which meat each of them gonna cook?
Whew. Yeah, that's the problem. It's going to be
Exactly.
what's left for me, right? Because Jordan's going to do brisket.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Of course, I get Teen Wolf with that as well, so that's cool. I get Allie for the box, so we're good there. Chicken is going to go to probably Bill, and ribs Albie. And I'll end because he's a rib champ from last year, so I'd end up with pork. The problem is everyone can cook pork. My strength is their strength. That's the worst part about it. So I put Jordan there because that's my weak spot. I'm consistent at brisket, but that's what I would do.
It sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I try to do that to see people have to pick people that's strong in each area because it's not like a Mount Rushmore, but it's individual meat, so they had to be good in that meat. All right, I came up with a game. The college basketball has a bracket tournament, so I came up with a bracket tournament of 16 meats that you cook on the grill, and just tell me which one you prefer to eat out of each matchup, and you'll see which one the winner. All right, matchup one is hot dog versus smoked bologna.
Smoked bologna.
All right. Next matchup, smoked ham versus hamburger.
Hamburger.
All right. Next matchup, beef ribs versus lamb.
Beef ribs. That's a shutout.
Smoked turkey versus steak.
Steak. That's an overtime game.
Brisket versus pork ribs.
Damn. Brisket.
All right. Smoked chicken versus burnt ends.
Burnt ends.
Okay. Pork chop versus barbecue shrimp.
Pork chop and a runaway.
All right. Sausage versus pork belly.
Damn. If it's from burnt beans, we're going to go with sausage.
All right. Next round, we got bologna versus hamburger.
Bologna.
Okay. And beef ribs versus steak.
This is like a 5 overtime game. This can go beef ribs. We'll take Chris Mark's beef ribs.
All right. Brisket versus burnt ends, which is.
See how that works? I'm going to go burnt ends.
Okay.
If they're Joe's from Slaps there, I'm going to qualify that.
All right. And you got pork chop versus sausage.
Burnt bean sausage.
Okay.
Or if I get it from Cordy, I give that the sausage now.
Okay. And final four, you got bologna versus beef ribs.
Oh, now we're eliminating people. So it's going to be beef rib.
All right. Bologna won a few times. Be surprised. Burnt ends versus sausage.
We're going to go sausage.
All right. Final matchup, beef ribs versus sausage.
I don't know how to choose between the two.
All right. Beef ribs is your winner. All right, Paul, your therapy session is over. If you want to promote yourself and get your website and all that, you can do that at this time.
Yeah, no worries. We're Smokin Ghost BBQ. It's on the internet. We're on Facebook at Smokin Ghost BBQ. There's only one G in Smokin Ghost, so a lot of times we get in trouble because people put smoking and ghost and have two G's. But we have a website if people want to find the products. We are starting to do more and more classes. I just remodeled the whole thing, so this is our warehouse and barn. It's a bit of a mess right now.
Oh, wow.
We got the precinct kitchen. We just got the Viking stove put in, so that's pretty cool. We just, you can see all the back. We got rackages and storage.
Nice.
TV to watch the Packer games, watch the end of the Cubs season. We built, there's the janky leg smoker up there. See that? Master belt? See that leg tilted? That's the smoker. The original one, I never claimed it, so it's all his. But yeah, so that's the classroom and that. So we'll be doing some classes. So if you're in the area, there aren't going to be competition classes. There's enough people doing competition classes.
Yeah.
I'll help someone. And when I do classes, you're going to come in my trailer and just watch what I do. A lot like what Triple H does. For me, that's the better way. But I'm going to do more for the general public more and more. Usually it's going to be Sundays, but we work around the Packer games. And we'll have some in December and some in January. But other than that, we got. I'll switch on you a little bit. KCBS. We got the elections coming up. We'll learn all the candidates here shortly. I know some have self-proclaimed they're running, but we'll see that coming out very shortly. Ask everyone to get online and research the candidates. Always love to have people with some deep background, the marketing or legal or sponsorship, whatever, that type of background, because we can never have enough. And ideas, connections to other industries. I'll say this out loud because if I don't ask, I'll never find out. We've got a couple of things we're working on. One of them I'm working on is hotel sponsorship, gasoline company sponsorship. So if anybody is out there that works at a level where they can connect 15,000 members with like a Mobil, a Shell, an Exxon, we can start talking about maybe a gas card or even hotel nights. Because if you're a judge, if you're a rep, if you're a cook, you're going to spend money on gas. You're going to spend money in a hotel. Increasing that membership value, that's critical. And oh, by the way, you don't have to be on the board to have good ideas. In fact, it's probably better if you're not on the board to have good ideas because we can listen to them. But yeah, no, I make a pitch for that more so than my products right now because we got a lot of things we could do. So those are the things I like to see get done.
Definitely. And like they say, if you're going to complain, come with a solution or half a solution. Don't just complain just to complain. If you have a solution, offer that also. Anybody can complain, but if you're not doing nothing, it's a waste of time. And also, like you said, do your research. Don't pick the popular name. Do your research and see what background each person has and what they can offer. And just because, I'm gonna vote for him. No, do your research because some people are specialized in certain areas, and combined together, y'all make a complete team. So.
So I'm going to amend my 3 cooks. If we're doing any ancillaries, I'm going to get Brad because then I get Jocelyn too. Brad Cox. If we're going to do like a dessert or something like that, right? If I can't get them, I want DB over there to do the dessert category. You didn't say dessert, you said 3. We turn in dessert, so.
Hey, that's fine. I need to extend it then. I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and your story because you gave a lot of good information for people that want to get into this field as far as rubs and seasonings and sauces and all that and competition in general. So I definitely appreciate you.
That's how we grow the sport, man.
All right. I look forward to meeting you at the Royal. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Enjoy your day.
All right.
All right. Thank you. We just wrapped up another session of barbecue therapy. Remember, stay patient, stay passionate, and keep that fire burning. Hit subscribe, share the good smoke, and pay the secretary on your way out. Have a blessed day.